I have 4+ years of experience in software development and Spring Boot, OSJ framework, JPA, and SQL. That's a short introduction about me.
Yeah, so you worked on the mostly on core Java, Spring, JPA, and REST APIs, and Angular 8
Yeah,
also. Yeah.
yeah. Angular, very limited experience only though.
Okay. Okay. So currently you are not working on Angular.
No, I'm not working on. So I had a chance to work on it for a couple of months. Due to lack of resource, I was assigned to GUI team to work on Angular temporarily.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay.
since they got a resource back, I'm pulled back to backend.
Okay. Okay. So let's start with the evaluations. So first we will go through the core Java questions.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Okay. So can you tell me the Java 1.8 features?
Okay, so Java 8 has introduced several useful features, among which some of them are Lambda expression, stream, functional interfaces, optional. Uh, these things are some of the features in Java 8.
Okay. So what is the purpose of the Stream API and how Stream working internally?
Okay, so Stream API, the purpose of a stream is to work on a bulk of objects in a collection. If you have a huge data set that you need to work on a collections, then that is where you will be going for Stream API.
Mm-hmm.
So in Stream API, they have given several methods in order to achieve the working on bulk of objects through certain, in a functional style of programming. So among which there are some useful methods like filter, map. There are some terminal operations. There are some intermittent operations. There are some terminal operations such as collect, where you can collect the result to a list or a set, something like that. And there are some intermittent operations like filter, where you can filter the stream based on certain predicate conditions. There is a method called as map. If you want to do some operation on every element of the collection, you can use that map. So, and there is again, there is parallel streams. If you want to achieve a task to be done in a parallel fashion, you can use a parallel stream. Then there is a for each for iteration purposes. So pretty much these are some of the functionalities used with respect to Stream API.
Okay. And what is difference between intermediate operation and terminal operation in Stream?
Okay, so terminal operation is the resultant operation where you would be ending the stream,
Mm-hmm.
whereas intermittent operation is just the in between process that is needed for the final result. So an intermittent operation can be followed by another intermittent operation. For example, you can do map and filter, or filter and another filter, etc. But ultimately, you will have to terminate that stream in order to close that stream and get the desired result. For example, if you are doing some operations on a list, if you want to filter out only the odd options, and then you will have to, collect the result, then you should be going for the terminal operations.
Okay. Okay, fine. And what is difference between the predicate and the functional interface, function interface?
Actually, predicate itself is a functional interface.
Okay.
So predicate. What it does is it basically uh, does the operation of true or false. If you want to evaluate a condition to a Boolean result, such as true or false, that's when you will be using predicate. So you will take an input and give out a result as either true or false.
So,
So inside predicate is a functional interface with the method test in it. Sorry.
okay. And what is the return type of predicate?
Return type of predicate is if you call the predicate with the dot test, it would return true or false.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you are saying that the return type is Boolean.
Yes.
Okay, fine. Okay, so I just typed the one output. So what is the output of this uh, program?
Just a minute.
Mm-hmm. I just entered into the chart.
Okay. Searching to maximize it. System.out.println. Okay, so what you are trying to do is you are trying to use the plus operator as in concatenation for a character.
Yes.
Okay. Uh, I guess it would print Java as such because
Okay.
system.out.println internally has a two-string method.
Okay. So what is out in a system? Can you elaborate what is system, what is out, and what is println?
Yeah, system is a class and out is the member inside that system class, and println is the function inside that.
Okay. Okay, fine. Okay. Uh, what is a functional interface?
So functional interface is a feature introduced as part of Java 8.
Mm-hmm.
So we can declare a interface as a functional interface just for the readability using the annotation at functional interface. However, it is not mandatory. An interface is qualified to be a function interface if it has only one abstract method. However, it can have any number of non-abstract methods, but ultimately only one abstract method is allowed. Uh,
Sorry, Nandakumar. Actually, again, the background voice is coming right now.
okay, so is it clear now?
Now it's clear.
Okay. So as I was saying, a functional interface is an interface which is introduced in, it is a feature introduced in Java 8 where interface is said to be qualified as a functional interface
Mm-hmm.
if it has only one single abstract method. However, we can have any number of non-abstract methods, but ultimately there should be only one abstract method at most. And we can denote an interface as a function interface by using the annotation at function interface. However, it is not mandatory and it's purely for the purpose of readability. So in JDK 8, they have given us certain predefined functional interfaces such as predicate by predicate, function by functions, consumer, supplier, etc. And these functional interfaces are brought in order to achieve functional programming styles and thereby use them in Lambda expressions.
Okay, fine. So can we add the default and static method in the functional interface?
Of course, we can add it. The
Oh,
rule is there must be only one abstract method. Apart from it, we can have default static methods like that, any number of it.
okay. So can you give me the one example so how we can use that functional interface?
Okay. Uh, for example, in Lambda expression, we can use it. For example, let's say I have a consumer
Mm-hmm.
which doesn't take any argument. So internally, I can write the method implementation which doesn't take anything as input, and you can do some operations. For example, I can give simple braces and then arrow operator, and then write system.out.println. That we can do, or else we can create a variable. As I said earlier, predicate p is equal to, and then I can write some boolean condition. For example, whether the input string starts with abc,
Mm-hmm.
that I can hold it in a predicate P. So wherever I want to use, I should use the by using P dot test of the input string. Let's say P dot test of double quotes Nanda. So this is how we can use. So P dot test would evaluate the function which I have defined in the predicate P, where I'm checking whether it is starting with ABC.
Okay, fine.
So that's how we can use a functional interface.
Okay. What is memory leak?
Memory leak.
Yeah.
Hmm. Um, Not actually sure about it.
Okay.
Um,
Have you worked
what
on
I
any?
guess is,
Do you know the
yeah,
garbage
what?
collection algorithms?
Yeah, so garbage collector is a huge improvement in Java, where the objects which are no more used are not referenced or being automatically cleaned by garbage collectors in Java, where the user need not manually remove them from memory. I guess from that question, I can say that memory leak is something where if the garbage collector doesn't fail to remove the objects which may still be referenced, those objects which are not eligible for removal. So that's the situation where memory leaks tend to occur.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. And do you know what are the enhancement that is introduced in Java 8?
Enhancements.
Yeah. For
uh, Enhancement in the sense, are you asking about the features?
uh, like in the hash map, there is one enhancement that Java 8 introduced, and also in the garbage collections, also there is one enhancement. So, do you know that enhancement?
um, are you talking about a concurrent hash map?
No, I'm talking about the hash map. Uh,
I guess
in the Java 8, there is one
yeah,
enhancement is
there
in.
is a method called compute. I guess it is part of Java 8. So if it's not there, we can do some operation and then put it in map.
Okay, so what is hash collision in the hash map?
So internally, how HashMap works is that if you want to put a key value pair, it would do some hash code operations and then normalize it according so that the index would be calculated such that it is a part of the current size of the hash map. So hash collision is something when two entries end up with the same index and then thus the hash collision occurs. So in that case, what it does is, for example, I already have a string key which has a hash code as index as 4, and if I'm trying to insert some other thing with the same hash code 4, what happens is in that list of buckets from the 4, another linked list would be created, and then that current linked list next would be pointing to the new linked list where our value would be stored. So this is how we resolve hash collision in Java.
Okay. Uh, have you ever faced the out of memory error?
No, not really in my project at least.
Okay, fine.
I've come across Stack Overflow exception due to some misplaced recursions or something like that.
Okay. So, what is array list?
Array list is a part of collection which is a class implementing list interface.
Mm-hmm.
So array list is basically a dynamically growing array. So it's basically global array is the underlying data structure inside a array list. So default size is 10 and its growth factor will be 50% of its capacity.
Mm-hmm.
It has some constructors where you can predefine the size of the array list. If you want only 5 elements, you can create the array list with the size as pi. Likewise, there are some overloaded constructors with several features. For example, you can denote the load factor after loading of these many elements only you should grow. That also we can do. Array list is it's not synchronized, hence not thread safe. And internally, if I have 10 elements and if I'm trying to enter 11th element which is exceeding the size, what it would do is it would create an array with the 50% capacity of 10, and then copy all the elements from the old array and then copy them into new array. Array list implements a marker interface called as random access interface, which means it retrieves the elements based on index. So the time taken to retrieve the first element would be exactly equal to time taken to retrieve any 10,000th element or 100,000th element, whatever it may be. This is achieved using the random access that interface which I mentioned earlier. And array list is best suitable for where the most frequent operation is retrieval, and it's worst when you have to insert objects. So if you are trying to insert something in between, so you will have to consequently arrange every item next to it. So that is one of the main disadvantages of array list.
Okay. Uh, you said that for the retrieving we are using the array list. So do you know how it internally or which interface it implements?
It implements a marker interface called as random access.
Okay, fine.
So that's how, with a big O of constant time, it retrieves the data.
Okay. Uh, okay, and suppose I want to insert the element faster, then which collection I need to use? Do I need to use the array list
For
or
in,
any other
for insertion, for insertion,
for insertion? Correct.
yeah, for insertion, linked list is the preferred one.
Okay. Suppose I have one scenario where I need to maintain the insertion order and as well as I need to maintain the unique elements. So which collections I need to use?
In order to main for there if sorry, you asked for no duplicates and order, right?
Yes.
Then you can go for linked hash set. Hash set on, won't allow duplicates, and if it's made as linked hash set, order would be also maintained.
Okay.
Or else, yeah, that would do.
Okay. Suppose I want to sort. I have the employee list, and I want to sort the employees on the basis of employee name. So, can you tell me the how you can do it? You can use the Java
So
it also.
we can use the collections.sort method and pass the list object. Along with it, we need to pass the implementation of a comparator,
Mm-hmm.
wherein we can simply give the logic inside that as a second parameter for the sort, where you can take name and employee dot name and compare employee one dot name dot compare two of employee two dot name.
Mm-hmm.
So this would give you in ascending order. So if you want to make it as descending order, you just have to reverse the polarities. So it would work like if one is greater plus one, lesser minus one, and equals zero. So based on this, using the comparator interfaces compare method, we can directly pass it to the as second parameter of collections dot sort and achieve this.
Okay, fine, fine. Have you worked on exceptions handling? How you are handle the exceptions in your project?
Yeah, so we handle exceptions through try catch block. So if the risky code should be wrapped with the try block, and if at all some exception occurs, it will be caught inside the catch block.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't want to handle the exceptions in the current method itself, we can, throw the exception from the current method, so that whoever is calling this method should handle, or else he can also propagate the exception to the upper level. So at some point it will be caught. So if we are sure that this method is going to throw an exception, we can declare it in the method signature with the keyword throws in it. So, so if this method is going to throw this exception, so be ready. That's how we can mention it. Apart from the normal exceptions, we can also throw custom exceptions as per our project requirements as well.
Okay, fine. Can you please explain the how we can create the custom exception classes?
We can create the custom exception class by extending exception class, and provide implementations for the methods. So in our project, if you want to send a message to the caller class about the exception, we can define that methods implementation, so that I can use the so for example, I'm creating a custom exception called as customer not found exception. I can create that exception class extending exception. I mean customer not found extends exception, and wherever I want to throw it, I can simply throw the object like throw new customer not found exception. So if I want, I can send the message in the constructor as well.
Okay, fine. Okay. What is difference between the class not found exception and no class definition found exception?
And actually, I've come across this. Uh, I guess class not found exception is if a class is not found during the runtime. So that's when class not found exception would occur. Whereas no class def is actually an error which is not really within our control.
Okay,
So basically, if a class is not found in a class path, we can. That's when class not found exception occurs.
mm-hmm.
So maybe jar versions may be not correct. So due to the version mismatches, those classes may be missing.
Okay,
And the other one, the error case, no class def found error is during compile time it would have found the class, but at the runtime it is not present. So in such cases, no class found error would be called. Sorry, it would be thrown.
okay, fine. So, have you worked on the multi-threading?
Uh, Fortunately, I didn't get much chance to have hands-on on our project, but I have done some simple programs to understand the concepts of multi-threading.
Okay, so how to create a thread?
Yeah, thread can be created in Java using two ways. We
Mm-hmm.
can either do it by extending the thread class, or by implementing the runnable interface.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, the thread class itself internally implements a runnable interface. So again, as I said earlier, runnable interface is one of the functional interfaces with the method run. So if we want to create a thread, and we wanted to do something with it, we have to provide the implementation of the run method. And once we have created the thread, we should call the start method in order to create a new thread, and that thread would do the implementation present inside the run method.
Okay, Can you tell me the difference between the callable interface and runnable interface?
Callable, I'm not really sure of it. Hardly used it. Only difference is that run method is a void method, as it cannot return anything. Whereas if you want to return something from the thread, we can use callable interface. We can specify the type which we want to return
And
is a part of a context.
what about runnable interface?
Runnable interface has only run method and it is a void method.
Okay, fine. Uh, what is wait method?
It,
Wait, yeah,
WAIT.
yeah, wait method. Yeah, correct.
Okay. So wait method is a method present in the object class. If we want to make a thread wait, we can use that method wait. So and if we want to wake up that one, we should use notify or notify one. So basically, wait method would move a thread from a running state to waiting state.
Okay, and what is difference between wait method and sleep method?
Uh, Wait method will wait unless some other thread invokes the notify all method, and whereas the sleep method will take in uh, a time, I mean seconds or milliseconds as a parameter. So till which it will be sleeping, and post that time it will start working again. So unless it is interrupted.
Uh, so sleep method is belongs to the object class or thread class?
Yes. It's a static method inside a thread.
Okay. Okay. So have you worked on a Maven?
Yeah,
Okay.
for some reading or running.
Okay. So can you explain me the Maven life cycle?
Even types.
Yeah.
Really sure about it.
Okay. Fine. Uh, what is Maven archetype? Do you know Maven archetype?
While importing Maven projects in Eclipse, I have seen that skip archetype, something like that. But apart from it, I'm not really sure about it.
Okay. So can you please tell me the what are the basic annotation that we are using in the Spring Boot?
Spring Boot application at enable configuration at beam at auto wired
Mhm.
at the component scan.
Okay. Hello, your voice is breaking.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That's all the annotations I could gather as of now.
Okay. What is auto configuration?
So auto configuration means Spring Boot provides certain features, so it will automatically configure the sources that are present as part of Maven. Which means if the classes are configured if the classes are present in the class path, then Spring Boot will take care of configuring those files. So to do that, we can use enable auto configuration.
Okay. And what is Spring Boot starter?
Spring Boot Starter is a set of Maven dependencies which has so many useful, commonly used, tested, and mostly used common project dependencies. So as part of Spring Boot starter, various useful things are present. Some of them like embedded Tomcat is part of starter. We have data JPAs, starter security, and we can do this REST services. Those things are also will be part of it. Then we have some database related things. For example, starter JDBC is there.
Okay. Okay. And what is component scan?
Component scan is what we that's where we will let the Spring Boot know where our components will be present, which means if you want a bean to be bean instance to be created automatically by the Spring Boot, and so that it can be injected, that dependency can be injected. That's when we would use at component scan. So using this at component scan, you can specify these are the components that I want to use. By default, if you have this main method at Spring Boot application, all the components in that package and all the sub packages would be automatically considered for dependency injection. So if you explicitly want to do some this scan for some component, you can use that annotation over that class.
Okay. Fine. Okay. So suppose I want to consume the REST API in the Spring Boot. How can I do that?
We can create a controller class and annotate it with the at REST controller,
Okay.
inside which we can create methods with various HTTP based annotations like at get mapping, post mapping, put mapping, etc.
Okay. What are the HTTP methods that I need to use?
Various HTTP calls present are get, post, put, delete, etc. So correspondingly, there is an annotation called as at request mapping, where we can give specify the method, or else explicit annotations like get mapping, post mapping, uh, put mapping, etc. can be used.
Okay. What is difference between put method and patch method?
So put method is if you want to update an object or an entity, then you will be using put method. But patch method is if you want to update only a specific part inside that entity, that's when you would use patch method.
Okay. And what are the do you know the what are the parameters? How we can consume the parameters when you are writing the or consuming any REST APIs? What annotations we need to use?
We can use at path variable, at request parameters annotations, and at request body. So each one for to get the query parameters or path variables in the URL, or the request body itself, and automatically, or if it's a JSON, it will be converted into a corresponding object.
Okay. And suppose I want to return the JSON, then what parameters I need to use on the top of the method?
Response body.
Are you sure?
Uh, yes.
Only response body annotations or any other annotations that we need to use?
Mm, yeah, I guess at response body annotation should be sufficient.
Okay, suppose I want to return the both the I'm fetching the data from the database, and I want to return the both XML and JSONs. Can I do that?
We can specify that by using the producers, we can type the media type like application JSON or application XML. So this there is something called as response entity which will take care of this conversion.
Okay. And how we handle the exception? Suppose if we get the exception, suppose I'm calling the REST APIs and I got the exception. So how you handle this exception?
So in our project, we basically catch the exceptions that are occurring and then send in custom exception methods along with the HTTP statuses like internal server error or some other exceptions like bad request types, etc. Unauthorized user.
Okay. What are the HTTP status code that you are aware about?
Aware of 404 not found 500 internal server error, 200 success response, and 403 unauthorized or forbidden. And that's all I can currently think of it.
Okay. Okay, fine. How to convert the JSON into the Java object?
We use a third-party API to do that. We can either use JSON or Jackson. Jackson's object marker object. We can use it and convert it. There are certain methods like write value as string is present or read value read tree. These methods are present through which we can convert JSON to object or object to JSON.
Okay. Okay. What is difference between the Bean factory and application context? Hello.
Yeah, I'm just trying to recollect.
Okay.
So using application context, there is a method called as getBean, and we can specify the bean's name to get it. Uh, uh,
Okay, fine, no problem. You can go.
yeah, I guess its application context is more has some more advanced features than Bean Factory. So I guess they can do more than just DI and IOC.
Okay. What is auto configuration?
Yeah, that's where Spring Boot will automatically configure our resources.
Mm-hmm.
That's what auto configuration is about.
Okay.
Whatever in the class path, that will be automatically configured. I have already mentioned earlier. So in our project, if we are using H2 means we need not do anything specifically. So everything will be automatically configured to us.
Okay, fine. So, have you worked on the Hibernate?
Not specifically, but I've worked on JPA.
JPA. Okay, fine. Okay. So, what is difference between JPA and Hibernate?
So JPA is simply an interface standard for Java Persistence API, but the implementations of JPA are provided by Hibernate. So basically, Hibernate is a framework containing the implementation classes, and
Yeah,
this
Nanda,
JPA is over.
your voice is
Yeah, yeah.
actually your voice is background noise is coming actually.
Okay, sorry. So if I don't hold my mic close to my mouth, then it's breaking. That's it.
Okay.
So as I was saying, a difference between Hibernate and JPA is that Hibernate is actually a Java framework that actually does all the things like managing the connections, doing persistence, etc. Whereas JPA is simply an interface that's a layer over Hibernate.
Okay, fine. Uh, how we handle
So
the
JPA is sorry.
okay, so how we handle the pagination in the GPA?
There is an interface paging and sorting repository, I guess. So using that, we'll be managing the paging.
Okay.
So it is again a child of JPA repository.
Okay. What is embeddable class?
Embeddable is it?
Yeah.
Uh, Sorry, I'm not really sure about it.
Okay. What is entity manager?
Uh, Entity manager has methods that we need for persisting. Uh, Entity manager, using the instance of entity manager, they have exposed certain methods like persist, etc. So through which we can persist or retrieve, etc. So all these things would be repeated for every entity, and that's why they have made it simple using JPA. So there we can find elements, get elements. Save method is there. Such things are there. Whereas in entity manager we have persist, flush. Those methods should be there. However, we are using only JPA repository right there.
Okay, fine.
Actually, it uses the persistence context to create, read, update, and delete. Basically, the CRUD operations.
Okay. And what are the instance state that GPA?
Sorry,
What are the instance state?
instance.
Yeah, state of the instance. Do you know the state?
Instance states STATs,
Yeah,
right?
states.
Okay. It can be persisted, or it can be detached, or it can be in the transient state.
Okay, fine. Okay. Have you worked on the JUnit?
Yes.
Okay. What are the annotations that we are using in the JUnit?
At before, at after, before class, after class, test. These are some of the annotations that we use in JUnit.
Okay. Have you used Mockito framework?
Yes.
Okay.
Mockito also used.
What is the mock annotations?
At mock.
Yeah, at the rate mock annotation.
You are asking what that is, right?
Yeah, what it is and when to use that. There are the two annotations at the rate mock and that
Okay.
inject mock.
Okay. So the basic purpose of mock is that if you are writing a test class, that should ultimately be testing one implementation class. So the scope of our test should be only to test the methods present inside that particular implementation class. So, but in a real project, it won't be possible. So we might be needing the, there will be dependencies with some other classes. So, but which does not come under our scope. In that cases, we will use mock. So there are some methods like when this method is called, then return this, then answer this, then throw this exception, or then call the real method itself. So, in order to simulate certain features, we are using this mock. So, we will basically have to prepare the mock and mock the calls which are from external dependencies, as we only have to test our particular implementation test in scope.
Okay. Okay. Uh, have you worked on the OAuth or have you used OAuth 2.0?
No, actually, the security in our application is maintained by a third party. So, before even our REST calls are hitting, we are using certain utilities like UMS and Keycloak. So, there itself, the security and the audit log entries would be handled. So, with respect to ours, we are not currently using OAuth.
Okay. So, are you using any tool to handle the security that you are saying?
Handle what?
How you are handle the security? Suppose in your project it is a third party tool or any
No,
chart?
that again is maintained by by another team. So they will
Okay, okay,
secure all
okay,
our risk calls and manage it.
okay,
So with respect to our application, our REST calls are already secured by Keycloak and UMS, and we also use HTTPS and HTTP2.
okay, okay, fine. So, have you worked on the database?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but to a very basic extent only, where we would be using JPA to interact with databases. So very hardly we would use a native SQL queries. So most of our requirements would be satisfied by, the several various methods that are exposed in JPA.
Mm-hmm. Fine. So, how to find the duplicate record from the suppose I have the employee table. So, can you write the
Okay.
query for that?
Uh, you want to find number of duplicates or
Yeah, I want to find the number of duplicate records in the table.
okay. Um, I can do a count operations, select count of star, and
Mm-hmm.
from that I can subtract select of distinct. So distinct would give me the unique values, whereas the overall count would give me the overall value. So the difference would be the duplicates count.
Okay, fine. Are you sure?
Yes, select count of stars from employees
Mm-hmm.
uh, minus count of select distinct names from employees.
Okay,
So this difference in count will give the number of duplicate elements.
okay, fine. What is difference between union and union all?
Union and union.
Yeah.
So, uh, this is union will select all the values,
Mm-hmm.
but not the duplicate ones.
Okay.
Whereas union all will simply give us all the elements. Yeah, so maybe using this also we can find out the duplicates.
Okay.
So if you use union duplicates should be removed.
Okay,
Okay.
fine. What is inner join?
Mm, inner join is basically the elements that are present that is common to both the tables. So if you have two Venn diagrams A and B, the intersection part is what is called as inner join.
Mhm.
Only the ones that are common in both the first table and second table, that only would be result of inner join.
Okay, fine. Okay, Ananda, I have done from my side. Do you have any
Okay.
questions?